The political landscape in Canada is taking a fascinating turn, catching the attention of analysts and citizens alike. In the midst of this climate of uncertainty and expectations, an unexpected figure has set his sights north of the border: Donald Trump. Yes, the former U.S. president, known for his incendiary style and ability to dominate headlines, appears to have found a new target in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But he is not alone. Mike Waltz, selected as a possible national security advisor in a future Trump administration, has entered the Canadian political debate with force. With overflowing confidence, Waltz has predicted nothing less than the collapse of the Liberals in the next election. His forceful comments have lit up social media, sparking speculation about whether we are about to witness a conservative resurgence in Canada. Questions soon arise. What would this change mean for national policies? What impact would it have on Canada's standing on the global stage? Meanwhile, discussions heat up, and the country appears to be bracing for an era of potential significant changes. On social networks, Waltz has not held anything back. His criticism of Trudeau's administration is as direct as it is relentless. From the topic of the housing crisis to concerns about China's influence, each post carries a touch of irony that doesn't go unnoticed. Beyond pointing out failures, Waltz projects a vision of change that resonates deeply with conservatives, who see in his words the hope of a new direction. One of his most striking and perhaps most talked about comments is his prediction that Pierre Poilievre, leader of the opposition, could be the man who finally sends Trudeau home in 2025. With a touch of humor and determination, Waltz hints at a political paradigm shift that could redefine not only Canada, but its role in the world. While the country observes each development in advance, the possibility of a transformation in the government is not only on the table, it is being discussed with fervor. Will this be the beginning of a rebalancing of power in Canada? The uncertainty is palpable, but one thing is certain: the nation's political future is far from boring.
As in the Indian mission in USA by Khalistani separatists.
Yeah.
What will you say on that?
Well, I have condemned, with my colleague Ro Khanna, we've condemned those attacks. Any type of violence along those lines are unacceptable, and it certainly is unacceptable on American.
The predictions act as a trigger to ignite debates of our broad interest, both domestically and internationally, while analyzing how a conservative leadership could influence diplomatic relations, economic strategies, and social policies. With the Trudeau government facing considerable challenges in areas such as trade and domestic politics, the prospect of an alternative course is attractive to many Canadians who yearn for change. Moreover, Mike Waltz's accusations about Chinese interference in Canada's elections seem straight out of the conspiracy theory playbook. Waltz points the finger at the Trudeau government for what he considers regrettable decisions, such as abstaining from voting on the genocide of Uyghur Muslims. It also criticizes past actions, such as authorizing a Chinese company to acquire a lithium mine, a decision that was recently partially corrected by excluding Chinese state-owned companies from strategic critical mineral sites. By highlighting these issues, Waltz weaves the Canadian political landscape into a global narrative about economic sovereignty and security, adding depth and complexity to the debate. His criticism goes further by highlighting financial support from Chinese donors to the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation, which he says reflects an unwelcome foreign influence on Canada's internal affairs. This statement opens the door to numerous questions about foreign intervention, transparency, and integrity in governmental and political systems. These kinds of discussions put pressure on current leaders to justify their actions, while broader issues of foreign influence and the need for sound domestic policies to protect sovereignty gain relevance. In the midst of all this, Trudeau maintains an optimistic tone about the possibility of working with a future Trump administration, seeking to align Canada's economic policies with those of the United States, especially on trade issues with China. However, the question arises as to whether this optimism is not a bit exaggerated, especially when considering recent measures such as the 100% tariff on electric vehicles made in China. These types of decisions, while seeking to align with U.S. interests, could lead to friction both in the global trade landscape and within Canada itself, due to divided opinions between the public and industries. The delicate balance between maintaining beneficial trade relations and protecting national interests presents a complex challenge for any government.
We are about to head to two major summits at a time when our closest ally, the U.S., is turning away from multilateralism. What is your hope for what APEC and G20 can deliver, and how ambitious do you think leaders should be specifically in terms of what can be done when Trump takes office?
Well, one of the things we saw in the American election, but that we're seeing in elections all around, including right here in New Brunswick, is that people are focused on the challenges that their families are facing, on fixing the cost of living issues, on creating optimism, ambitious for their communities, for their regions, and so many of the challenges we're facing around the world are having those direct impacts on the cost of living for people. So going to APEC, going to the G20 to talk about the challenges of the world, whether they're the rise in conflicts, whether it's shifting geopolitics, whether it's economic challenges, infrastructure challenges, the increasing costs of climate change, there are a lot of things that we're going to have to deal with to respond to the challenges families are facing all around the world. That certainly is my focus, and I know that both the current American administration and the incoming Trump administration want to solve the challenges that families are facing, and Canada is part of the solution for American challenges in the work that we do together.
The political stage is set, and some might smile wryly at Trudeau's optimistic approach, which seeks to project an image of international unity that for many seems to be held by very fragile threads. Although his strategy focuses on promoting global cooperation and diplomacy, he faces constant criticism and intense debates in his own country from those who doubt his true effectiveness. The question remains, will Trudeau's strategies be able to withstand voter scrutiny and the passage of time? With the opposition fine-tuning its tactics and a shift in popular sentiment evident, Trudeau's leadership faces a decisive test that will test his resilience, adaptability, and ability to design effective policies in an increasingly turbulent political environment. With the federal election approaching, Canada's political landscape intensifies with an energy that seems to come out of a movie script. Cross-border criticism, theories of electoral interference, and strategic moves in the economy